Hey everyone, welcome back to the second episode of Send Noods, not a food podcast. I'm Kristen.
And I'm Ashley. And if you guys are new here, make sure you check out our first episode where we talked about being science majors, how to deal with life post-grad during a pandemic, moving to a new city, and like making friends.
Yeah, I mean, we honestly just complain the whole time about our lives, and we try to give some advice to people with similar such situations.
Yeah, I think we gave some really good advice for like college freshmen and like how to like get research jobs and how that the same situation carries over to post-grad life.
Okay, so we mentioned in the first episode that me and Ashley met when we both joined a sorority in college. It was a social sorority, and we just kind of want to talk about our experiences being in one, what made us want to join, the aspect of us being Asian or just women of color in a predominantly white sorority. We also want to give advice to girls who want to rush. So, Ashley, do you want to start off by saying why you rushed?
Yeah, sure. So my situation is a little, I don't think it's unique. I think a lot of people go through the same thing. So we both rushed as sophomores, but I definitely rushed because I hated freshman year. I didn't really have a lot of friends. Like I didn't really branch out. And it's ironic because I would never in a million years think that I would join a sorority. And when I first moved in, so at least at our school, I don't know about any other schools, but like upperclassmen, they can help like freshmen or just people moving into the dorms move all their stuff into their rooms. And so these two girls were helping. Well, they weren't really helping. I don't really know what they were doing. But all I remember was that the two girls came into my room, looked at me, and then looked at my roommate and gave her a flyer and was like, oh, like, we should go to the Greek Expo. Like, we'd love for you to go through recruitment, find your family. They looked at me and then just left. And I was so appalled.
Wow.
And my parents were like, you're
That's
never
crazy.
rushing. Like, they're so mean to you, blah, blah, blah. And my roommate, she was in a really awkward spot. She was like, oh, do you want to see the flyer? I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, no big deal. And then I went to the Greek Expo, like just kind of like walking through, and like no one really stopped me besides the Asian sororities, which is a very interesting thing, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But Kristen, why did you want to like join?
So like I think my experience was like kind of different. I like had like a good group of friends freshman year, and we always like hung out and like went out to parties. But I think I wanted to like branch out because I just had like my same like five friends, and I think that I saw all these girls in their sorority and like hanging out with so many different girls, and like they knew so many people. So I felt like, oh, like I kind of want to do that. Like it looks fun. Plus, I heard that like it's super good for like connections with like school. Like you can sit with like all these girls in your classes, and they can like you guys help each other with like schoolwork and like studying. So I thought that that was like a good opportunity to have. I also, with Ashley's story about like freshman year moving in, like I had not a similar experience, but I had like a girl when I was moving in, me and my roommate like come into the room and just handed us a flyer to come join. And I just thought like, oh, I'm not doing that. Like, cause I never thought that I would ever join a sorority. Like I just thought that was like, oh, like a thing in the movies, and like they just like party, and I didn't think that I was that type of person, especially coming like not doing anything in high school, not partying, not really doing anything crazy. So that was my kind of experience with that. And I think when Ashley mentioned about going to the Greek Expo and no one's stopping her, but like and the only ones who stopped her were the Asian sorority, I had a similar experience. I wasn't freshman year I didn't go to the Greek Expo. I already knew I wasn't gonna go rush, but I did walk by a Asian sorority, and they like immediately stopped me, and they're like, oh, are you interested in rushing? Like you should definitely rush, and like gave me these flyers. They're very aggressive, especially when they see an Asian girl, they just like attack them.
You.
I also think it's because like there's, like our school was predominantly white, so I think like every, chance they saw an Asian girl, like, oh, gotta go recruit her.
And especially it's a very small, like, their sorority in general is very small, so they always want to expand.
I think that made me feel, like, obviously you felt good, like, oh, they want me, but then you're like, oh, is it only because I'm Asian? Because obviously they're an Asian sorority.
I mean, you don't have to be Asian to be a part of the Asian. It's a cultural one, so you
Yeah.
don't necessarily have to be Asian. They do explain that in the beginning. However, like you can just see like most of the members are Asian.
Yeah, I think most of them are. Usually, I think I know like the Asian frats, like a couple of them are like not Asian at all, like a couple of white guys. But for the most part,
Yeah, like there's the few.
yeah.
Why didn't you go that way?
Why didn't I join an Asian sorority?
Yeah.
I mean, so freshman year, I like wasn't going to join anything. I think when sophomore year came, I like knew I wanted to be in a sorority, but I thought that like joining an Asian sorority, well, I didn't really know much about the Asian sorority, but I was like, oh, like, if I'm going to join a sorority, I might as well join the social one. Like, you can go to parties and, you know, you meet more people because the sorority's bigger. So I think that's what I was thinking. Plus, like, I don't know, I just, with the Asian sorority, I'm not trying to, like, it's not like I don't hang out with Asian people. Like Ashley says, like, we naturally gravitate towards Asian girls. Like, it's just natural. So, like, I feel like it's not hard to find Asian friends. So I didn't want to, you know, go that route. I just didn't really think much of joining an Asian sorority, I guess, in the end.
I mean, I kind of the same mentality in that like it was very natural for us to like find other Asians. Like the reason why I didn't go the Asian sororities or the cultural sororities was because freshman year I was given like a mentor, an Asian mentor through the Asian American Culture Center. So I was kind of already involved with that kind of group of people. And ironically, Chris and I both went to the Chinese Student Association meetings like freshman year, but we didn't know each other obviously back then.
No.
So like I was already kind of involved, and like a lot of the same people were in the cultural sorority. So I didn't want to just hang out with them. I'm not saying you can't. It's just I felt very limited. And ironically, all of my lab partners, I think maybe like 80% of my lab partners have all been Asians. Like,
I think, yeah,
it's not like
most of them are Asian. It's just like you naturally, you know, you go into lab the first day, you have to find a lab partner, like a lab desk, and you just like naturally sit next to an Asian person.
You first look for a friend that you know, and then you look for like an empty seat, and then you look for just like, I mean, I don't know if you care if it's a guy or girl, but I tend to go to female lab partners, and then like it kind of like a person of color, like that's just kind of how my brain works. I'm not saying I have a preference, but like that's just kind of subconsciously what I do. So that's why I didn't go the cultural route, just because I was already kind of involved. And my Asian mentor was in that sorority, and she just didn't seem very welcoming. But I think it was just because she was already my mentor. She was supposed to seem very professional and just like help me transition to college. So I think she didn't want me to see her in like a drunk way or like a social way, you know?
Yeah. I think we should probably talk about the recruitment process and also like touch upon going through recruitment as a sophomore versus a freshman. So I don't know if you want to start talking about that.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, there's good and bad things about rushing as a sophomore versus a freshman. Like, freshman year is just a lot. Like, the transition to college is a lot, which can be a good thing in the sense of like, oh, it's hitting you all at once, and you're really like naive, like you don't know anything. But as a sophomore, you already kind of know the hierarchy of like the social ladder.
It's kind of like not a good thing.
No, yeah, like you hear the good and the bad parts of it. Like you already have a bias going into recruitment.
Yeah.
But as a freshman, you're very clear. Like you don't know anything about anything. But
so I think that's a good thing about
I was debating like, about it actually.
You think?
Because with this whole everything going on, would you want to know if that sorority has a reputation of being like a reputation of hazing, they've had a history of like discriminating? Like, would you want to know that?
I mean, yeah, I guess I would. I guess in that sense, but I think if you take
that was a new thing for me to think of this year.
Yeah. I think because I feel like I didn't know much about sororities, so I didn't really know about hazing, or I didn't know that like how inclusive or not inclusive a sorority was. So I just,
I feel like
when
you don't
I
really
think about
know
like,
that until you're in it. However, like
yeah,
as a sophomore, I did know I knew who the top tier like
yeah,
organizations were, and I feel like that kind of gives you a
yeah.
bias.
Like I feel like it's like a bad thing in a way, because when you're a sophomore, you like know, like the top 3 sororities, and you know like, oh, those sororities are like lame, or like they're, they don't hang out with many frats. So I think it could, you're biased because you can be like, oh, I only want this sorority. If I
Yeah,
don't get this sorority, I'm dropping.
they tell you to go in like open-minded, but like
Yeah,
you
but it's kind
can't
of hard
be if you've already lived
when you
on
know
campus.
everything. Yeah, and a lot of people have friends in sorority. So like going through recruitment as sophomore, like, oh, you can have all these friends in one sorority, and you can be like, I really want that sorority. And if they don't want you back for some reason, and you can just be heartbroken and just quit, recruitment, when you have like, a bunch of sororities that want you, but it's because you really want this one sorority because your friends are in it, or because that they're like high up there, that like, oh, I see them around campus and they're super pretty, so I want to be with them. It's kind of very, not open-minded. You're not really looking for other sororities, and you're not like keeping an open mind. So that's kind of a bad thing.
But also like recruitment, at least formal recruitment, it can vary about how long it could be. Like it could be like 3 days, it could be a week, whatever. Like every school is different. But also you have to keep in mind that you're not gonna fall in love with the sorority talking to one girl for 20 minutes on the first day. Like personally, I didn't the organization that we are a part of, that we were a part of, I didn't really care for them the first 2 days. Like
Yeah.
they were just like on my list. Like I didn't not like them, but I didn't like love them. And I think it wasn't until maybe like the third or fourth day that I'm like, oh, okay, like maybe this is the place for me.
Yeah. I think we should kind of backtrack and talk about formal recruitment in general, like what it is.
Oh, yeah, sorry
So
we didn't explain, guys.
I guess I'll talk about it. So in many schools, some schools do it in the fall, some schools do it in the spring, but many schools have formal recruitment. And the formal recruitment is when you have at least like 4 to a week. It depends on which school you go to. Usually the big schools in the South take a week to do it because they have more sororities, and girls go to, they move in a week early before classes to go through recruitment. So every day is different. For us, we went to UConn. So the first day was what was it called? Scholarship Day. And you see all of the sororities. So you go to all
Talk about
sororities. You have,
academics.
yeah, it's about academics, the topic, but you talk about, usually it's, what year are you, like what major. And you have about like 20 or so minutes at each sorority. And then you have a group and you go through. It takes a long time. Like it's like a lot of hours, and you're talking to these
Trying
girls.
to dress up
And
stay
there's
pretty.
like, there's not really a dress code, but you obviously want to look your best. So the first
Think of
day,
going to a tea party.
yeah. So the first day you talk to all the sororities, and then after the first day you rank your sororities into what you. I think the way you rank it, at least for UConn, is you rank like they're all like 1, or top like say like 6 or like 1, and
Yeah.
then you drop 1 sorority. I think you put 1 on a chopping block or something.
I have no clue, but I know the thing like girls don't realize is that the sorority is also ranking you. Just because there's so many girls going through recruitment, like they obviously one sorority can't get everybody, so in order to cut down the numbers, like the girls going through recruitment pick their top girls, and then the sororities themselves will pick their top girls, and it's just a whole matching process. And so as the week goes on, as the days go on, you just go to fewer houses
Yeah.
or organizations.
Yeah, the next couple days, like the next morning you come in after the first day, you meet with a group and you see which houses or which sororities you get to go back to. And it's usually, this is the day where like a lot of girls are sad and
Heartbroken.
they're heartbroken, and they weren't expecting to get dropped, but like all these sororities are like their favorite ones. So it's a hard day for a lot of girls because.
But don't take it personal.
Yeah, of course. Like, it's kind of cliche because everyone says this, but like, trust the process. And
Oh my God, I wanted to beat someone every time someone said, go on full faith, like trust the process.
yeah, like I think obviously I feel like girls should just keep going, even if like their favorite sorority dropped them. I think like it's cliche to say trust the process, but like at least keep going to see if you like the girls who you talk to. Because if you go through it and like you are so disinterested, like it just makes the process for the sisters talking to you and yourself like miserable. If you don't want to have a conversation and you're just like, like slumped over, like I don't want to talk to this girl, and then the girl's like trying to talk to you.
You're shooting yourself.
Yeah, like you're really limiting yourself, and you don't know what is there, like what's going to happen at the end of the week. You don't know if you're going to love the sorority that gives you a bid or not. So I feel like girls who like get so disheartened after like the first couple of days of getting dropped or not is really important to, keep your head up and keep going.
And just don't be rude to other organizations, because we've had people, like, as we are sisters in the sorority, and we've had girls come in saying like, oh, I don't know why I was invited back. And I'm like, cool, well, I'm supposed to talk to you for the next 10 minutes. Like, that just makes it so awkward. And also, like, people talk. You're not supposed to, but people talk.
Talk about what?
Like, within the sorority or within, like, Panhellenic in general. Like, people are gonna know if you were that rude person.
True. I think we should also talk about how we felt going through recruitment. So
exhausted,
the
tired,
whole week it's so exhausting.
Hungry.
You talk to so many people. You have back-to-back rounds sometimes.
Also, everyone gets sick after recruitment, whether you are going through the process or you are the sister. Like, it's just so like, you're meeting so many people, everyone's screaming, talking.
You have to like literally scream because it's so loud when you're talking to your like a sister, because there's also like a bunch of other sisters next to you talking to potential new members. So it's,
and you don't have that long to talk, therefore the conversation is so important.
So let's talk about bid day, or like the last day when we found out about what sorority we got.
People cry, whether tears of joy or sadness.
I think more people are happy about. So when you get your bid, like you're with your group of, 10 or so girls, at least with our school, we're a small school, 10 or so girls, and then you're, what's it called? I know some schools call it Rho Gamma. I think I'll just, one like girl disaffiliates from, one sister disaffiliates with their sorority to become this Rho Gamma, to like be like a leader and to like help these potential new members, like the girls who rush, to find.
They're here to mentor you and help you throughout the week and the process. Because also, I don't think girls realize is that as sisters, we are not allowed to talk to any potential member, because it could be looking or seeming that we are influencing you to go our organization. So the week before, like, because I know at our school we had recruitment after the first day of school, but I know some schools like down south, they start before school even starts. But regardless, throughout the whole recruitment thing, like, even if your roommate is a sister that's already affiliated, like, they're not really supposed to talk to you about recruitment, because we don't want to influence your decision. Like, it's a very personal thing. So if you have a question, you're supposed to talk to your recruitment leader or Rho Gamma, whatever they call it.
Yeah. So your Rho Gamma is there to help you. So on bid day, she like hands out these little like letters and envelopes, and it has your sorority that you got put into. And I also want to say that at least at our school, for the most part, everyone gets a bid. But I know as the years went on at our school, not everyone got a bid. And I know for a lot of other schools, like especially the big schools, like not everyone gets a bid. Some days, like,
there's
you'll go.
Just too many girls that rush, and just not enough like space, I guess you could say, for the organization.
Yeah, I think at least with at least going on, because I know like when we rushed, or at least the year before when I heard sisters talk about it, like everyone got a bid, but then like the year we rushed, like a lot of girls didn't, like some girls didn't get a bid, And even if they're like, you know, great people.
Also, girls also should not shoot themselves in the foot again. If you only have one sorority left at the end, you should write that sorority down. Like, why wouldn't you? Even if you don't like it, like, I mean, in a sense, it's the question of would you rather be in a sorority that you didn't say you didn't like, or not be a part of Greek life at all. And so I think you should just put that organization down because you may grow to love it.
Yes.
Like, you never know. Because there are some girls that just didn't put like anything at all. Like, they were just like, oh, I'm gonna get a bid it regardless. I'm like, no, it's a mutual thing.
So on the last day, when you put who you want, you put like 1 and you put 2, because usually you only can see 2 people, 2 houses, 2 sororities at the end of it. So you put, you know, your number 1, and if you don't get that number 1, you get number 2, but you have to put number 2 down. A lot of girls who like only want this one sorority will only put number 1, and they don't put number 2. So if that sorority doesn't want you back, then you don't get any sorority because you didn't put a second one down. So I think that happens a lot to some girls who don't.
They're just so confident in themselves, which a confidence isn't a bad thing, but you definitely want to cover all your bases just in case. And I know it was our bid night. There was a girl, she was crying. I didn't know this until afterwards. You remember seeing her. There was a girl crying at our bid night because she wanted...
in our sorority, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw her crying, and I was like, I feel you, girl. No, just kidding.
Because also, like, she was put in a very tough spot because the friends that she knew that were already affiliated were telling her, yeah, we love you, like, we're gonna take you. So that was wrong on their part. Like, as a sister, you shouldn't talk to potential new members regardless. You don't want to give them hope, because then at midnight she was so upset when she got the organization that she didn't want.
Yeah. So how were you feeling when you found out that you got your sorority?
I mean, like I said, I already know where I am on the social hierarchy, so I wasn't not very surprised. Yeah, I got my number 1 pick. I wasn't surprised at all. But there was that other part of me like, oh, like, you're not in that like high one.
Yeah. I think, well, because I had 2 left, like I liked my last 2, but I originally picked a different sorority, and I really thought I was gonna get that sorority because I was like, why wouldn't I, kind of feeling. And then so when I opened my bid card, I was just like, oh, I wasn't upset about the sorority. I wasn't upset, but I was just like, why didn't I get my other one? Because I put the other one as my number 1. So I was like initially like, oh, I don't know how to feel, because like I wasn't upset about.
They didn't want you.
Not necessarily, because there's like an algorithm.
Yeah,
so
like they could have
wanted you, but you didn't. Yeah, there's like more. It's kind of complicated. We're not gonna go into it, but they only have like 40 spots, and
you were like number 41.
Yeah,
like, that's just
out of like 100 girls. So
because also the Panhellenic organization, which is the council above like each individual sorority, or the house or the department of Greek life, fraternity life, whatever, sorority life, whatever you want to call it at your school, they do try to give each organization like around the same number, so everyone has like the same class size in a sense. And also, like, if you have newer organizations, like, they're kind of gonna get more girls just because they're new. They're trying to build up their numbers.
Also, I want to say with the whole algorithm thing, it could also be like if a different sorority like really wanted you and you're very high on their list, that you, even though you put the other sorority down, you could still get your number 2. I've heard of that because this algorithm is kind of like all over the place and no one really knows about how it works. But I've heard of, that could be the case. But yeah, I was just like, oh, like I was happy, but also I was like, oh, I don't know why I didn't get the other one. So I kind of was a little like I was like distant on midnight, like everyone was like having fun and like dancing and like you're meeting all these new sisters, but I was like, oh yeah, like I'm having fun. I was trying so hard to like force myself like, oh yeah, I'm having fun. Like I'm happy to be here. But I think because I was just like, so like, oh my God, like I just don't understand why they didn't want me or like what happened. So that was like my take of it. Obviously, like I grew to like being in my sorority. I think midnight was just like overwhelming in general because you're meeting so many people. Like you know, some people didn't get the sorority they wanted. Some people, you know, did get what they wanted. So I think, and you're with so many new people. So you're not with like, I didn't have any friends I knew in the sorority. So it was kind of.
Did you have any of your friends go through recruitment with you?
I had one friend and we were both sophomores. So the second day of recruitment, when we found out like what sororities dropped us and who we're meeting next, she was set on like one sorority that she really wanted to be in. Like she told me, she was telling all her friends like, oh, I really want this one sorority, like telling them like, oh, I can picture myself, blah blah. So
did you go into it wanting a particular sorority?
No, because I didn't really even know which one I would be in. I know a bunch of people like picture themselves like, oh, I really want this one, but I never really pictured myself in any of them. So I definitely was like, oh, you know, I don't really know. I'll see. But yeah, she ended up dropping the second day because she was really upset about getting dropped by the one sorority that she really wanted to be in. So yeah, I didn't really have anyone else besides her.
I didn't tell anyone that I was going through recruitment. Yeah, the only person I told was my roommate, obviously, because I'd be coming home late. I didn't tell anyone because a lot of my friends just weren't into Greek life. They thought it was like, I don't know, like the stereotypical, like, oh, you're a sorority girl, like, why do you want to join that? So I didn't tell anyone. I didn't tell my parents. I think I told my brother, but that was it. And so I went through the recruitment process by myself, and my bid day was very interesting because when you get your envelope and you go to the sorority, there's usually an older sister holding like a prop with your name on it, and they're there to greet you and to just like have a good time with you for the rest of the night. And I didn't have anyone because the girl that had my name, she got stuck at like the union or something. Like she missed the bus, so I didn't have anyone to greet me, and I literally wanted to cry. I was like, wow, like maybe this was a fluke, maybe I wasn't supposed to be part of the sorority. But her friends, like I kind of just went up to a random sister and was like, oh no, like I didn't see my name, and they're like, oh no, I'm so sorry, like that girl, like she's just caught up somewhere. And then like it was fine, like I hung out with some older sisters that I met during recruitment. But I know, like, in that initial moment, I was really upset. I'm like, wow, everyone's so excited. Everyone has someone waiting for them, and I didn't. And also, I don't know, I think I told you this, but, I think the first, like, 2 weeks or so, a girl that lived on my floor told me that I should drop my orientation.
Oh, yeah, you did.
because she was sitting behind, I guess, these sisters in anatomy class, and I guess they had like a list of the new members or whatever.
Oh yeah,
and
I remember that drama.
They were just like making comments about like new members, and so she was like, yeah, like I would never want to be part of an organization that talks shit about like their new members. And so I remember I was so heartbroken, and I was like, oh my god, like what did I get myself into? And so I told our new member coordinator. Some organizations call it a different position, but basically just someone to guide the new members. And she was like, "Oh no, like I'm so sorry, like I don't know. What are you supposed to do when you tell someone like, yeah, I heard your organization's talking shit about us? Like, what are you supposed to do?" But then I just decided to stay with it because I also knew like whether it's a sorority or whether it's any other club or organization, there are gonna be people that are just mean. And you just hope that you don't find those people. And apparently I did. Like I don't know who those girls are. Even to this day, I have no clue who those girls were, if they were even talking about me, if they're talking about any other new members. Yeah, so that was my experience of midnight and like literally the first week of being a new sister.
I think for a lot of people it's very stressful, and even though you're supposed to be like super happy and stoked about being in sorority, it's for everyone it's kind of different. So,
Okay, I kind of want to talk about how we fell and how it was like being the only Asians or just in Greek life or just, minorities in general in Greek life. I know our sorority, our pledge class had a decent amount of Asian girls. I think there was like four of us. But as in the whole sorority, there might have been like six or eight or something. But I guess in general, being Asian, we definitely stuck out because we were surrounded by a lot of, white girls.
Yeah, I guess our sorority pledge class was, I think in general, our pledge class was probably the most diverse, I want to say. But I definitely know, like, up the hierarchy, the top tier sororities, they definitely lack diversity. Like, I know when you go through recruitment and you see those organizations, they have their look. And I definitely didn't feel like I fit in. They definitely have their one or two, like, just to say they're diverse and they're inclusive,
Yeah.
but as
Yeah.
a
Like on
whole, they weren't very.
Yeah, like on Instagram, you would see like the occasional like Asian girl pop up or the occasional black girl, and then that would just be like their token Asian or their token black girl because like, oh, we're diverse here and there.
They can always say like, "Oh, we are diverse because we have this." Like it just felt like a quota in a sense, which is awful to say. Like you shouldn't treat someone as a quota, but I definitely felt that way when I'm looking at these organizations.
Yeah, I mean, but I guess in general, I did like in our sorority. I sometimes I did feel like I didn't belong, or just like in Greek life in general, because like we were different, we weren't white, but I guess because our pledge class was so diverse, like Ashley and we're Asian, like my big was Asian, so I had friends that I related to, and I think as the years went on, it kind of got less diverse for sure, especially with like Asians, because not many girls that were Asian
No,
joined in our sorority at least.
I think the new pledge classes have like one or two, and I don't know if that's just because like less minorities are rushing or we are just accepting less. I don't really know.
okay, so I feel like we should talk about the pros and the cons of being in a sorority because I know we've been saying some not rough things, but we've been talking about our initial experiences and our initial, I guess, what's it called?
Reaction?
Yeah, of being in a sorority for the first couple days or weeks. But yeah, like some pros of being in a sorority initially is like meeting new people. Obviously, like the first when especially when you're a new member, so many girls are, like reaching out to you and to get food, to get coffee. So it's a great way to like meet people, obviously. But you also like meet people that you have the same interests. So I know like I didn't really know a lot of girls that were my major. I kind of, I had friends that were like engineers and like a different kind of biology, but I never had girls in my major. But like I met like for example, my big was the same major as me, so that was like a good thing to have. And like Ashley, we're both biology majors, so that was a good thing to like have someone to complain about or like I don't know, just give advice to. So yeah, I think
But
that's
also like on the opposite side, like all of our friends are like science majors. However, ironically, like our littles aren't science majors at all, and we would never have met them if it wasn't for the organization that we were part of.
yeah, exactly.
So you meet people with your own major, but you meet people like especially like older sisters, and they can help you about picking classes. But then you meet people that you would normally never meet.
Yeah.
I always kind of stuck with the people in my year, but like because of my GBIG, like I started talking to like the seniors when I was a sophomore, so that was also good.
Yeah, I agree. Also, like just like little things, I guess, like being in a sorority, like there are connections, and I guess like connections in like work related, like
Oh my
applying for
God,
jobs.
yes, I remember I was applying. Remember that one Christmas that I worked like two jobs at the mall?
Yeah,
So one of the places I got hired at, I think it was Charlotte Russe, and I ended up not accepting the job because I got hired by two other places. But the girl, that was hiring, I think she had a sorority necklace, and I pointed that out. I was like, oh, I'm in Greek life too. And so that was just like something in common for
yeah,
us to talk about. And also one of the alumni members of our organization, she went through the same program that I went through like 20 years ago. So she was a good resource because she went through the same major, she went through the whole like academic side, but she also went through the social side of being part of the same sorority. So that's another good connection.
Yeah, also I mentioned in the last episode how I got my research position basically because this girl in my sorority was leaving her position, and she posted in our group chat like, oh, any bio majors like looking for research. So I just emailed the PI, and I got an interview, and I didn't have any research experience, but the main reason at the interview, she was like, oh, blah, blah, was talking so highly of you. Like, I really want you to work here. So that was a good thing. Probably one of the best things of being in my sorority is because I got that research position. But also, like, with, like, notes, sisters, we have, like, note banks, and, like, you just upload your old notes to, like, different classes, and then you can just go on the Google Drive and look at the notes.
Or, like, even just asking older girls advice. Because, so, ironically, my big and we are the same year. However, we had the same major, but I took classes before she did. I think freshman year she was in, like, the 3-semester chem or something, and I took the 2 semesters. I was always a semester ahead of her, so I was able to just like help her pick classes, like what teachers to avoid. I gave her all my old notes and stuff, but I think that was a big plus of just having a community of girls. Like, people post on the Facebook page all the time, like, oh, did anyone take this class? Can you help me? Anyone have their check account they want to share?
Yeah, they do it all the time. But also, besides like notes and academics, community service is a big part of Greek life.
Okay, that was also the reason why I picked our organization. Like, I liked our philanthropy, like what we stood for. So personally, that's why I picked our organization.
Yeah, like a lot of organizations, they have one philanthropy. So that's mainly what their community service is about. So a lot of girls, have a strong connection with.
And it's not just a dumb car wash like in the movie. It's like we actually do stuff.
Yeah, so it's a good thing to have community service and to put on your resume. Also a thing to put on your resume. There's so many leadership positions in every sorority, so a lot of girls transfer those positions and those skills they acquired doing those positions to their jobs or internships.
That'd be one thing that I suggest for newer sisters. Is even though you are a new sister, don't be afraid to apply for a job or a leadership position, because even though you're new, that doesn't mean you can't learn the role. Also at our school, they did have like a junior panel in it, so it was just like for newer sisters. So I do regret not applying to those when I was a sophomore. But also, I know in our organization, everyone had a leadership role or you were part of a committee. And it was I think that's just so interesting that like on recruitment, on our name tags, we were able to talk about our involvement in our organization and not just like, yeah, I'm part of this big thing. Like, you actually have a role.
So I think we should also talk about the cons of being in a sorority. I guess one of the biggest, dues is like one of the biggest things. It's very expensive. For our school, it's not it's still expensive, but it's not as expensive as schools in the South or like in a big school like, Michigan or Penn State.
And like, we don't even have like the nicest houses.
Yeah.
Like, we do have Greek, we call it the Greek village or the Ville, and the houses aren't mansions like some other schools.
No, they're basically like dorms at UConn, but at bigger schools like in the South, like Alabama, schools like that, like they have huge houses that you basically have to live in for at least 1 year. So that's why the the dues are so high, because you pay for the house. Usually they have chefs. So you pay for, like, you have a meal plan.
You have like a house mom.
Yeah, you have a house mom, you have a meal plan. So, and it just in general, like, Southern sororities are, like, bigger. So, the dues are more. So, yeah, that's a huge con. Like, I know I paid my dues for myself.
Yeah, I paid for my dues by myself. And your first semester is going to be the most expensive just because you're paying for, like, the one-time fees, like, your initiation fee, like, the national fees. But every year after that is a lot cheaper.
Yeah, I mean a lot, but like not that much because it's
I
still
mean,
expensive.
it was like half the amount of our new member dues.
Okay, yeah, but like, I guess in general, it's so expensive.
At the beginning of every semester, we're always complaining. We're like, imagine what I could do with this money.
I would have so much more money if I had still have the money from what I use for dues. Like, that's insane.
Okay, and that's another thing that I want to touch upon is like when you join one, you're gonna have those people that are gonna question you and they're gonna give you that attitude of like what, like you bought your friends. But I would not think of being a sorority as buying my friends. Like I think it just opened more opportunities. Like I said, you have leadership roles, community service, but I would not have met Kristen if it wasn't for this. And it's not like I paid Kristen like $100 to be my friend. Of course not.
Yeah, we just paid to be in an organization that we happen to, become friends in. To go along with like, people judging you. I know a lot of people like judge you, like certain people, like based on what sorority you're in.
Yeah, even like within Greek life, there's still like some judgment.
Yeah, like, frats will be like, oh, I'm not going to hang out with this sorority because like, they're lame, or I'm only going to hang out with this sorority. So I think that's also a con because you think like, oh, joining Greek life, I'm going to open up so many doors to meet more people. And you will.
You will.
But you will come across, people not wanting to hang out with certain groups of people because they're affiliated with one sorority or one, they know someone and like, you can know someone and then be like, oh, blah, blah, like, she's weird because she's in that sorority.
But like I said, I think that's just for like any organization. Like you can say like, everyone in the STEM field should like each other, right? But you could find out the engineers hate the bio majors. Like, that's just, I think, as you get more narrower within the organization or something, like, you're just going to have those people that are kind of annoying.
Also, I want to really touch upon a big thing for cons is the rules that come along with being in
Kristen
sorority.
has a great story.
I have a great story. So I guess in general,
our first semester.
Yeah, but I guess I want to say in general, like being in a sorority, there comes a lot of rules. Just because, sororities don't want to ruin their image, they're very particular in how people perceive them, and they want to, I guess it's not really fake, but they want to show like, oh, we're a great group of girls. Like we don't, go out and do crazy things. We don't,
they
party.
They always say you're wearing your letters, meaning you are always a representation of them. So if you do something good, then you represent the sorority. If you do something bad, you are representing the sorority, and people are going to know you by, oh, you were that girl.
Yeah. So I think a misrepresentation is, at least in the movies, it's like, oh, like they just party all the time, like they can do whatever they want. That's not the case.
Another thing, I don't think people realize, I'm not saying you have to be a 4.0 student, but you can't slack off. There is a minimum GPA to be in Greek life. I don't know what that minimum is, but you can't completely slack off.
Yeah, so one of the rules is you have to maintain a certain GPA or you go on suspension or probation. So that's one rule. I mean, it's a good, rule. You want to keep yourself accountable.
Because also there's that little competition of like which sorority is the smartest, which sorority has like the highest GPA. You will always know which sorority that is because they harp on it during recruitment. And I think that does say something about Greek life, like they do promote academics because you are a student first.
Yes. So one of the I just want to give an example of like one of the rules is you can't post, if you're under 21, you cannot post a picture of yourself or with other girls in your sorority or anyone in general with alcohol. So you can't have a red Solo cup, you can't have a beer can, you can't, you can't even put a sticker over it.
It may not be for every organization or for every school. This is just our experience.
Yeah, I think in general, a lot of sororities at least are implementing this rule of, not posting with alcohol, at least if you're not 21. Like it could be just our sorority or our, campus.
Because I think some schools or some organizations, you can put a sticker over it and they're fine. But I know ours, like, remember that time I got in trouble?
Yeah. Someone was holding like a water bottle, right? Or something.
I think. And I think I covered it with a sticker and I still got in trouble for it.
Yeah, so that's one of the examples.
It's just because it looks like we're promoting underage drinking or we're promoting alcohol, we're promoting partying, which like you might think like, oh, I'm just posting a picture with my friends, but to other people, they might, like I said, they might see you like, oh, you're that sorority girl that parties all the time.
So yeah, that's one of the rules. You know, anything involving alcohol is really a touchy subject. But I just want to give a really quick story of me encountering a problem, and when you get like in trouble in a way, like one person from the exec board will contact you and be like, you need to take like this Instagram post down. So I just want to give a quick story. This happened when I was a sister, so it was like the spring semester. So the semester sophomore year after being a new member. I didn't really know about any of the, like, I knew you couldn't post a picture of alcohol, but I didn't really, that's all I thought. And I never posted anything like that. But if you guys know Barstool, it's accounts on Instagram, and they post,
and then every
like,
school
drinking.
has their own.
Every school has a different, account dedicated to their school. So they post drinking and partying videos or funny pictures, usually girls. And our school had a smoke show of the week or a smoke show of the day type post. So you could submit yourself, or your friend can submit someone and nominate them to become smoke show. So I didn't know that my friends submitted myself, like a picture of myself, to the UConn Barstool account. And I think they submitted it like a couple months before it got posted. So one day I was just like sitting in my room and I get tagged in a UConn Barstool picture, and it's of myself, and they're like, oh, smoke show of the day, blah, blah. So I was like, what the heck is happening? I like texted.
Everyone was like, hell yeah, Kristen, good for you.
Yeah, everyone was supportive. Like, the picture got like a decent amount of likes and like comments from my friends, but I texted everyone. I was like, what is this? I'm really confused because I didn't submit a picture. Like, I didn't know who would ever submit me. And then finally one of my friends was like, oh yeah, blah blah, submitted you. It was like a long time ago. Like, I'm surprised they posted it because it was so long ago. So I was like living it up because I was like, oh wow, like I'm getting followers. It wasn't a bad post. It was just a picture of me in a bikini. I'm not showing like my butt. I'm not flashing it. It's just me in a regular bikini, like by the water. And then the second picture was just a regular picture of me in like a UConn t-shirt. So it wasn't a bad picture. Like, I could show the bikini picture to my mom and it would be fine. But so I thought it was a fine post. Like, it was nothing bad. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't like flashing anyone or, the camera. So, I think an hour came by and I got an email from my sorority, and it was like a long professional email saying that I had 24 hours to take the post, or to get the post taken down, or else I will be on like probation and, all these serious things. So I was like, what the heck? What do I do? Texting like my big and my G big, and they're like, no, like you gotta keep it up. So it was a whole thing. I eventually got taken down because my sorority was pretty strict on that. And at that time, I will say there was a lot of other girls in other sororities that were posted on that Barstool account. So I kind of was like, why is my post getting taken down just because like my sorority wants it getting taken? I didn't post it myself. Stricter. Yeah, our sorority was definitely strict. And I didn't submit it myself, and it was nothing wild. And I will say, so it got taken down, right? And I was pretty upset about it, but I was like, whatever, those are the rules. Literally the next day that my post was posted, a video of a girl in our sorority like making she was making out with this awful. It was an awful video. She was making out with this one guy, but the whole context of the video was she was eating his hammered. Face, and she was hammered. She was eating his face, and he was not so into sloppy. It. Like his eyes were open, like he literally was looking at the camera, was like, "Help me!"
Literally, like the caption was like making fun of the girl.
Yeah, like they were like, "Wow," like because she was like all into it, and he was not into it. So everyone in the comments are making fun of
this girl.
And it was a girl clearly in our sorority, and people were tagging her in the comments, and she was like, I think she posted on her Insta like, oh, living it up. Like, she was actually kind of proud of being on that account, but because she was never tagged. I
totally forgot about that.
She was never tagged, like Barstool never tagged her because obviously like she didn't submit it, and so they don't know who it was, but like everyone obviously could see her face. And obviously like I'm pretty sure the execs saw that video, but they didn't ask her to take it down. It's still up there till this day.
That one just, so like the whole point of why we weren't allowed to be on Barstool was just because we're promoting like kind of like sexist behavior, and like just like it's just not a good image. However, that other sister just also represented us as being the sloppy girls of the party, which I think is even worse than Kristen's, who looks gorgeous just like in a normal picture. If anything, I'd rather promote Kristen's than the other one.
Yeah, I was just like kind of upset because my post got taken down, but hers didn't. She was being like, they're the whole point of these rules, like, oh, we don't want to like look sloppy, we don't want to look unprofessional. Yeah, she's here like in a video, and we don't know. Maybe she tried to get it taken down, but I know that she posted on her Finsta like she was happy, like she was like kind of like, oh, look at me on Barstool.
Also, there were, I think like a year after that or something, I don't know whether it was like Christmas or Halloween or something, and Barstool posted just like pictures of Halloween outfits, and a girl on our exec
Oh my god,
got
yes.
tagged, but it was in a carousel, so she wasn't in the first picture, but she didn't get in trouble. I was like, you're on exec.
Yeah, no, two girls.
How did you not get in trouble?
Two girls, the girls we're talking about, were like dressed up, like they were like beer pong cups.
Oh yeah, yes.
And they were both on
exec.
Well, one of them was on exec.
Were they?
One of them was on exec. One of the other ones is on exec now this year. But they were in like there's like multiple pictures in the post, so they were like in the middle.
It was in a carousel. Yeah.
So they weren't tagged, obviously. But
I was pissed. I was like, wow, just because Kristen had one dedicated photo and her photo was good and they are promoting beer pong. Like,
yeah, they're dressed up.
Why did they get in trouble?
Beer pong cups. Like that's
because they're on exec.
Exactly. So it was very annoying. So those are just kind of like the rules of being in a sorority and kind of like the downsides.
Those are dumb, superficial rules. Like that's just for our own ego. Like it's not that big of a deal. Kristen got more follows, she got more likes, like it's fine.
Yeah. Okay, I kind of want to move on and talk about partying.
The fun stuff of being.
The fun stuff. This really gets kind of fun, stuff. Even though we've been talking for a very long time. But yeah, let's talk about like partying. And I guess because we're talking about being a sorority, like the before, like partying before we're in a sorority and like after. You want to talk about partying? I know that you had a rough freshman experience.
My thing about freshman year was like, yes, there were a lot of parties. However, the people that I hung out with, no one was affiliated. So it was very hard to go to a frat party because we didn't know anyone. That was our biggest thing. We didn't have the connections. Like, not that whether we didn't have the connections because none of us were in a sorority and none of our friends were. So I think that was my biggest problem. But I don't know, for Kristen, like,
yeah, so for me, like I think for me, for freshman year, I went out a lot to parties with my friends, and I was mostly friends with unaffiliated girls. I think we found out about parties from, my friends who were in a sorority, and that kind of helped. But like in terms of like getting into the party, like you didn't need to be in a sorority. You didn't need to be. So our school, you had to have like lists and like be on a list to get into like certain parties. And this wasn't really prominent freshman year. Like I wasn't affiliated. So freshman year, I could just like find out about party and then go and then like no problem.
But I think the hardest part is just finding out about the party, and obviously like if you know the brother or you like know a sister, like it's just easier that way. But if you're unaffiliated, you kind of hear about it like the day of, and at that point like the party may be busy, may be full, may not be.
I also want to say that with UConn, there weren't any like Greek housing so we had on-campus housing, but obviously you can't have parties. Like it was like a dorm type situation, so no parties were on campus. And I know a lot of schools, they have like frat row, they have Greek row where all the frat houses are on one street of kind of off campus. So to find a party. That. Yeah, but to find a party, you would just go to the frat house, and then if they had a party, you can go and you can see like who's having a party. With UConn, you cannot go to one frat house because there are multiple frat houses. Some frats had 3 houses all across off campus, like super far away. So you needed to know which, like if you've heard like, oh, XYZ is having a party, but then you're like, okay, I know that they're having a party, but which house is it at? So you needed to have some way of finding which house, and then you know the address.
And then brothers also just like didn't really want to give the address because I think UConn's biggest problem was that there's just so many people going into one like tiny house, and so that was like kind of a safety hazard, and that was the whole start of having lists, is because if they ever got shut down, they can tell the officer like, oh, we only had this amount of people here.
Yeah, and like with like UConn police was very strict of like finding the parties and shutting it down. So I think they didn't want to give out their address because they didn't want you to Uber there and then like a police car to like, because the police would follow Ubers.
Uber there.
Yeah, and then shut down a party. And we know that's not like gonna be the same situation. It's probably not similar to any school, honestly, but like this is UConn's experience.
Our schools just kind of get rid of Greek, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, so with, I guess, partying, it kind of got harder to go to frat parties as the years went on because the police got stricter. So, they would have lists and you had to be on the list. And like being a sorority, I just want to say, like being a sorority, you usually get to be on a list. And usually frats will invite most of the sororities. Not the top tier frats would sometimes not invite like the lower tier sororities, but in general, if you were in a sorority, then you had priority to be on these lists for the parties. And then the brothers, obviously, if they had friends, like guy friends or like girlfriends that weren't affiliated, they can just put their name on the list.
You just have to know someone, and just like being in a sorority definitely helped us, because I'm not saying like we knew one brother in every house, because we didn't. The only reason why we were able to go to like this party or that party is just because we were affiliated and they put out like an invite to our sorority. But like there were like this one particular frat, like our friend was dating a guy, so we were always welcomed at that house.
Yeah, I think a big part of like being in a sorority and like partying is getting invited to a frat date night or a frat formal.
Oh, it's so glamorous.
It's very like when you're a freshman, when you're sophomore, like even when you're junior, you're like, oh my god, I really want to go to a formal, because you see, because sororities in general have formals, then like their sorority holds a formal, but I think it becomes even more glamorous when you're invited to a frat formal and you get to dress up two times, and you can go with your friends.
I just want to explain that like a semi is kind of like homecoming, and then formal is just like prom. Like it's literally just like prom all over again. And not every school, but at least from our school, frat formals usually were like 2 days, and it was usually off campus somewhere. You stayed somewhere overnight, but sorority ones are usually just like a one night thing, like at a hotel or something.
Yeah, like a ballroom. And yeah, semis you usually wear short, clubby or like homecoming dress, not home like but like shorter dresses, and then formals. Not all schools do this, but formals are like long dress, like prom type things.
I mean, you can wear whatever you want, but if it's just like an easier analogy for you, like if you think of it in a high school sense. But yeah, I remember I was so naive, like sophomore year. I was like, oh, I want to go to I want to be able to go to every frat's like formal. Like I was so naive. I thought it was so easy. I mean, it can be easy if you are a very outgoing person and you make friends with everyone. It's not that hard. However, if you listen to episode 1, like me and Kristen are very like introverted people. Like we don't really talk to other people, especially boys. So like it's not hard per se, but also like
you have to be very outgoing if you want to go to every frat. But yeah, so I want to talk about like especially our first year being in a sorority. We were kind of obsessed.
Oh my god, yes, Kristen and our other best friend really, really tried their hardest to go to this one frat.
Okay, so formal. I will give some backstory. This one frat we heard was having their formal on a yacht or like a boat. So we were like, wow, that sounds really cool to be in a boat in the middle, like in Boston. And we just like joke like, yeah, we're gonna finesse.
This was the same night as our sorority formal too. So they had to pick.
Yeah, so
our sorority one.
Did we know that it was the same day or not? I think we found out later.
I think we did.
I think first I joked
because
about
I didn't push it because I was talking to that kid.
You wanted to go to your form, yeah. You wanted to go to our formal.
So I didn't really push it because I knew like I was already talking to a guy, so I was gonna bring him to my formal anyway. So like that's why I didn't really try to go with Kristen and our other best friend. And like I had my big and my G, like I was really close to my sorority family, so I wanted to. And my G big was graduating, so I really wanted to go to my formal. But Kristen and our best friend like had other plans, priorities.
Well, at first it was just a joke. Like me and
it was definitely just a joke to get on the boat.
Yeah, like let's try again. So
every
let's
weekend
finesse.
it was we went to this particular frat house every single weekend because they needed to get on this damn boat. Like, you do not. Oh my god, you don't understand.
So, I mean, okay, yeah, we would, yeah, in the beginning it was a joke, you know, but then it was like, oh shit, like we should, like, because we started talking to a couple guys in the frat, and then we're like, wow, like maybe we could actually, you know, convince them to invite us to their formal. And then, you know, as, you know, we kept going out and like meeting people and meeting these guys, we're like, wow, like we could do it, and we like made it our goal.
They set their eyes on these two guys. Well, this one guy picked Kristen, and then our best friend
wow,
just had to deal with the other had to deal with the guy's friend.
Yeah, so basically, like I really didn't. I'm not a person to like go up to a guy and just like start talking to him, and like it's just not me. But like this one guy that happened to be in that frat, like, you know, liked me, and I was like, okay, well, if he likes me, then I have to set up my other friend with someone else. So I like kind of like finesse something. We won't go into detail, but
our friend, she did
she took one for the team.
A very generous person.
Yeah.
Yes, she did.
She took one just to get on that boat. Let's just say that. But yeah, in the end, we ended up getting there.
Yes, I remember the night. I think it was that night. I don't know if you guys went to that party, and I remember texting the group chat. That was the last night to decide who's gonna sign up for our sorority formal. Like, you had to like put your name on the list that yes, you were going. So that was the deadline, and I remember texting you guys, or you guys responding in the group chat like, the deed is done.
Like we both got your name. So we had this deadline. You didn't need
to put your name on our sorority list because you were able to get on the other one.
Yeah, so I guess I just want to clarify, our sorority formal was on the same night as the frat formal going on the boat. So we were trying, like, we had a deadline for the sorority to put your name and your date and like your birthday and like on a doc. And Ashley was like, let me know if I need to put your name on the doc or I need to take it off. So we had, you know, this one night. And it was one night to seal a deal. Like, me and my friend really were pushing it. Like, we had like a week. I think it was like a week and a half or 2 weeks until
ended up getting into a fight with this man.
Okay, I won't go into it, but
you got into a fight. You're like, are you bringing me to your formal or not?
So
ladies, if you want to be direct, that is the most direct you could possibly be.
Because the guys had like 2 weeks until their formal, and they didn't have to put in their date for a while, or like a week or so.
Yes, I think sororities are also more organized. Yeah. Like, boys, they can like wait till literally 2 days before their formal. They're like, yeah, I'm bringing a date. But like sororities are very very organized, very strict, and they want to know a head count. Yeah,
so it was like last minute, and Ashley was like, you know, text me please if I need to take your name off or like put it back on.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was like midnight when the dock closed, and I remember Skylar.
I think you texted at like 1 in the morning.
Yeah, Skylar texted the group before. She was like, put our names on, because it was not going well. The night was not going well. We had a social with this one. Ironically, we had a social with this one frat. Yeah. How ironic is that? How helpful was that? So me and Skylar had to go and like finesse. But yeah, so it was like midnight, and Skylar was like, put our names on the list. Like, we're going to our sorority. We failed, blah, blah. So Ashley dumps our name on the list. I think like 1 a.m. I don't remember this.
1 a.m.
So it was like 1 a.m. I texted our friend, and I was like, God, like, the deed is done. Like, quotes asked me, or I forced myself for him to ask me or to agree that I'm going. And then I think she, like, you know, 10, 20, I don't really remember when she was like, yeah, like, me too, or something. So yeah, we got on to this boat. It was a great time. Was it worth it? Yeah. To say that I went,
I think it was fun. It was definitely better than our sorority formal. But like I said, like, I had a boyfriend. I had my like other friends there too, so it wasn't that big of a deal. I don't know if Kristen and Skylar would have a fun time at our sorority one.
Yeah, we definitely had a better time.
Knowing that they could have had a better time on the boat.
Oh, well, I quickly want to say, like, how Ashley's saying, like, oh, we would have had a better time on the boat than, like, at the sorority formal. It's because, I don't know if it's like this for every sorority, but our sorority had really strict rules on how drunk you could be at this, the formal, and how, like, who can drink. So you basically had to be 21 to drink physically at the formal. But obviously, girls pregame before formal. So.
Oh, and no. Even we had like a sober hour. So even if you pregame, we had to go to the house an hour before in order to sober up. So
Yeah, like
that
they
was.
disguised
I don't know
that,
if
though.
that's. Yeah, I don't know if that's for every organization, but I know for our organization, it was very hard for an underage girl to actually be drunk at formal. Not that people weren't.
I think
like,
it was just our
asked,
organization.
Yeah, like I could ask an older sister and she'd buy me a drink, no big deal.
Because they were just scared about girls like being really like drunk and
trashy.
Okay. Yeah.
Or if it's just like a safety hazard if she drinks too much. So you had to hide. If you wanted to bring nips, you had to hide it. Even if you were 21, you weren't allowed to bring nips.
No, you had to only drink like at the bar.
They would check our purses. They would check us all.
They check your IDs to see if you're 21 or not.
Yes, they check your ID to make sure like you're not bringing a fake one. That's why on the doc to sign up, they ask for your birthday to know if you're 21. And they would give you like wristbands and everything. So at least our organization was very strict on underage drinking. So I think I was drunk, but I wasn't that drunk at all. Like I definitely sobered up by like dinner.
Okay, well, I think we're running out of time. But if anyone wants to hear how me and my friend finessed getting to this frat formal, then yeah, let us know. And
like
maybe
truly finesse.
Yeah, truly finesse. We were struggling in the beginning. It's not as easy as one would think because we just met these two frat guys, so it was very, very hard. And they were, it was not easy. But yeah, we can make a whole episode or a little segment about it. But yeah, that's another episode down. I think it's getting easier. We've talked for so long in this episode.
Oh my god, this one is so much longer than the first one, and the first one was already long. I think you're definitely going to be excited for next week's episode. This is a topic that I love to talk about, and it's about being the other woman. So we're actually going to split this into 2 parts. So next week is about someone else, and then episode 4 will be my own personal experience.
Yeah, next episode, I will say, is going to be about a really close friend of mine.
Like, really close.
Yeah, well, we'll go into that next time. But, she was the other woman. And I was there for the whole time. So I could really testify and, like, talk about this story because I was basically there the whole
I was practically there. Like, through technology, I was there. So thank you for listening to episode 2, and you don't want to miss next week's episode.
Yeah, talk to you guys later, and don't forget to send nudes.